Okay, thank you so much. Good evening. Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. It's now 7:03 p.m. on Wednesday, January 19th, 2022. The first item on our agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. So I ask everyone to please stand so we may say Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is over here to our right. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. The next item on our agenda is anticipated adjournment into executive session. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons being considered for board action this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like that motion carries. Thank you. We're in executive session, 7:04 p.m. Just for the public's information, we expect to be in executive session for about 60 minutes, and we will be out at 8. Thank you.
You're live.
We're live already?
Yes.
Okay, can we get 5 more minutes? Sorry. for your patience. We're going to resume our meeting in open session. The next item on our agenda is a moment of silence. And I'm asking for a moment of silence tonight to honor the life of a previous employee here who retired from this district, Dr. Constantine Adriatis. He was a teacher here when I went to Woodlands, Trustee Jamal went to Woodlands, and Trustee Washington went to Woodlands. And although we're not high school age anymore, you can see that he made an impact on us as well as on the Greenburgh Central School District community. He also was married to a longtime teacher, science teacher here, Mrs. Adriatis. He was an art teacher, a beloved mentor. He worked very closely with Trustee Warner in the WISE program. And Trustee Warner described him to me as one of the kindest people in the world. And he has departed from our world and touched many, many hearts. I don't know if you want to say anything, Trustee Warner, before the moment of silence?
Sure. So I did work with Dr. Andriatis, or under a Dr. Andriatis, as a volunteer for the WISE program. He coordinated the program, and I mentored 5 years. So that's 5 springtimes I sort of got to see him operate. And it wasn't that he was, pontificating to students. He cared a lot about students, like each individual student that was in front of him. And he was around the students as they were making their way through high school, and especially in that WISE program as they were getting ready to go out into the world, okay? And so his real genius was not that he was giving you wisdom, it was that he was giving you tools to express yourself, and he was listening to you. So for years and years, there would be pieces of art that students would make, and sometimes it's art, and sometimes it's art therapy, and sometimes you're getting over a bad romance, or sometimes you're looking and saying, "My God, here comes adulthood," and just allowing yourself to express it allows you then to cope with it better. And so the transitions that he helped people go through have left a lasting impression. And my daughter was a WISE student, and a lot of the other people will probably come back and want to honor him if there's any way to do that. So if there's anything that we can do to help with that, I would urge us to do that.
And I do thank you, Trustee Warner. I do want the public to know that the board did receive some emails from folks about the death of Dr. A, as we will call him, and the town actually did an observance as well over his passing. So I'm just going to ask for a moment of silence for a minute, please. Thank you, and you are missed, Dr. Adriatis. Next on our agenda is a tenure approval, and we have 2 tenure approvals for this evening. We have Edith Lemus and Lenore Rottinelli. I believe Ms. Rottinelli is here tonight, so I would like to ask her to come up to the stage or to the podium. I'm not sure where it is from where I'm sitting. If Ms. Lemus is here, I could ask you to come up as well. So for those of you that do not know, in New York State, we have a process called tenure, where someone is employed on a probationary status, they're evaluated. We're basically checking to see if they're good enough to be a member of the Greenburgh Central School District family. And Ms. Rottinelli has passed with flying colors. She is the librarian at R.J. Bailey. If there's a mic there, I would love for you to say hello and introduce yourself publicly. Is the mic on?
Hello, testing. Great. Hi, everybody. I'm just so honored. It has been such a wonderful 4 years working for Greenburgh Central School Districts. district, and it's been my dream to be a librarian my entire life, and I'm so happy that I get to work with the students at R.J. Bailey. It's a very special place. We were just talking about that, and it feels like family in this district, and I'm very, very honored and happy that I have tenure, and this will be my home. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rottinelli. Thank you. And if the board would permit me, I'd like to deviate from the agenda a little bit, because next on the agenda is statements from the public, but we do want...
Wait, we need to pass a resolution.
Sorry, let's go to the resolution. Thank you, Trustee Warner. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that we approve the tenure items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Congratulations. So I'm going to ask to deviate from the agenda, although I do want feedback from the board if you have any concern. We do not have our superintendent on our agenda to give an update. However, since our last meeting, there's been a lot of changes with regard to COVID and a lot of procedural things that have gone on, as well as some conversation about remote learning, and I think people really want to hear that. In the past, the board has had conversations about public comment coming before these presentations or after. So it was agreed upon that we'd have public comment after some of these things, but I'd like to hear from the board if anyone objects to Dr. Iverson giving her report now before public comment. So everyone's okay with that? I see thumbs up, I see heads nodding. So Dr. Iverson, if you would not mind, could you please give us an update on some of the COVID changes and things that have been going on recently?
Certainly. Thank you, Trustee Mayers, and good evening to the board and the Greenberg community. Thank you to those of you who are watching the meeting tonight on live and on replay. I hope have seen that our district has been sharing a great deal of important information in the recent weeks. After each week, we have continued to send my weekly Greenberg update. I have felt the need to do this because New York State and Westchester County are regularly updating their guidance on a variety of COVID-related topics. And I will also be sending a special COVID update tomorrow, so parents, community, look forward to that for me. So I know this is a lot of information, and at times it can really be confusing. I'd like to summarize some of the key points for you now. The first one I would like to talk about is the remote learning snow pilot program that we will be implementing. And this is particularly timely because we may be having snow or ice this evening and into tomorrow morning. So as you may know by now, we are in Greenberg School District. We have in our 2021-22 school calendar, it allows for just one school day, one snow day, and 2 give-back snow days. We have already used 1 snow day as well as 1 give-back day, leaving only 1 left. So at this time, we have determined that we are going to be on a 2-hour delay. So I'm announcing it publicly, and by now our community should have received a message. However, in the event we need to close schools tomorrow, I've made the decision that we will be using the 2nd give-back day for the reason that our remote learning program that we will be rolling out tonight has not been discussed with the parents. We just met with some of our staff today, and we just need more time for people to understand it, ask questions, and make sure that it runs very smoothly. We hope we will remain on a 2-hour delay, but if we do need to move to closure, I want to announce formally that you will get a message from me by 6:15 in the morning, whether we're moving to closure. And if we do, we'll be using our 2nd give-back day. But our remote learning program, I want to thank Dr. Macaluso and his staff for working very diligently to lead the efforts to create this remote learning plan. And what this plan will entail is that for future snow days, we will move to remote learning. It will count as a full instructional day, and so that it would count towards the 180. So it will not count as a closure on a day we need to make up. This plan is going to be posted on our website. It's going to be coming home in my message on the my weekly message, so we're asking parents to look for that, as well as members of our community. Contact tracing, another hot topic relative to COVID. I'd like to move to that because the Westchester County Department of Health, Dr. Ambler, the commissioner, has informed all public school districts and superintendents that schools are no longer required to conduct contact tracing. Dr. Ambler outlined a few protocols, though, that schools must follow, and you can see these also in my letter when you get it this weekend, and it's also on the website, as well as it's on the CDC website. So I encourage you to have a look at that. So here's what is specific to Greenburgh. In addition to the county guidelines, my administrative team has decided to take a few additional steps because we want to still mitigate for COVID. Our main focus is to keep everyone safe, and so as these new guidelines are coming out, so we put some additional steps in place to assure that that doesn't change. So although there will be no more contact tracing, and we will continue to send home the generic letter, the letter that we send home to notify the community when we have a case of COVID in our school district. Thank you. Okay. In addition to that, a second letter will go home from the school where there's a COVID case, from the school principal to notify parents when there's a case of COVID. Here is the difference with contact tracing. At the time that you are notified by the school that your child was in a class where there was a COVID case or there's some exposure, parents have two options. Parents of exposed children can opt to quarantine their children at home for 5 days and receive asynchronous instruction, and in those cases, those days will be considered excused absences. Or parents may choose to send their children to school, provided they are asymptomatic while monitoring their symptoms. If symptoms do develop, parents are expected at that time to keep children home and notify the school. So no longer will parents receive calls that your child has been exposed. A letter will come home from the school informing parents that your child was on the bus or in a class where there was a COVID case. At that time, parents can make the decision to quarantine their own child for 5 days, keep them home. In cases like that, you can receive asynchronous instruction, and those days will not count against your child's attendance record. Or you can continue to send your child to school, providing they are asymptomatic, and if symptoms do develop, at that time, notify the school and keep your child home. So I want to make sure parents understand that has been changed. It's a guidance from the county and from the state that districts are no longer permitted or have to do the contact tracing. So the next topic is the Test to Stay program. I talked about that in my update last week, my past couple of updates. And it is still our hope that we can initiate this Test to Stay program next week. Our day to launch it is next Monday, the 24th. But there are a number of requirements that we still have to fulfill. We worked on that today before we can start this program. And we're in constant contact with the county on those details, and we're waiting for some answers. So we're also now working with other superintendents, throughout the county to consider if this new guidance even now has a different effect because of the contact tracing. So we're not there yet. We hope to have more updates and look for some information, hopefully in my update on this weekend. So again, we are receiving new guidance about COVID nearly every day and working hard to see how all these pieces fit together. But most importantly, I want to make sure our community knows we are trying to make the best decision for our students, faculty, and staff always. And to that end, I want to commend all of those who have worked with me in daily meetings, conferences, trying to sort through these very tedious guidance documents that require just sitting down, concentrating, and paying attention to those details to interpret them to the best for our school district. And these questions and input, the questions that they brought to these meetings, I have to tell you, the input has been very critical in the decision-making process. So thank you for that. A few other topics that I want to speak to very briefly. While COVID, we know, has consumed much of our time, I'm one where I know it's important that we remember our students and how and what they're learning in school. We just don't want COVID to monopolize all of our time. So I want to make sure our kids are enjoying their friends, participating in sports and clubs, and going about their days. And I want to highlight a couple of things that I know that are still happening in our schools that pertain to our students. MLK Day holiday. This Monday, you know, we celebrated Dr. Martin Luther King, and our teachers found ways to make sure our students learned about that legacy. Many have used this as a way to kick off Black History Month, which we're approaching in February, and we will begin starting to share stories with you through our newsletter recognizing Black History Month, as well as Asian Lunar New Year in the coming weeks. So please look for those stories. The high school musical recently held auditions for the spring musical Once Upon This Island, which is scheduled for March, and we are so excited to have a musical back in our theater, and I hope you'll watch for ticket information and come out to support our amazing cast and crew. Secondly, nextly, our school breakfast and lunch survey. I want you to know that we are looking at that program very heavily, and in response to the feedback and questions that I've received from parents concerned around our food lunch program, we are conducting a survey to obtain parent and student feedback about the breakfast and lunch experience. Information from the survey is going to help me and my team determine what changes and improvements need to be considered in making sure that our students get the very best meal program here in Greenburgh. There'll be two surveys I want to make parents aware. We're going to send a survey out to all of our parents, pre-K through 12, and we are going to send out a student survey to our Woodlands Middle High School students, grades 7 through 12, and get their feedback relative to the food program and what they would like to see. That is going to be sent out in my update, so look for that this Friday. And the responses will be returned by the 28th. And again, I know that I shared a great deal of very detailed information. I again want to remind the community that, you know, you please refer to my letters, my weekly updates, and our website if you want any review, any more information. And please feel free to call my office.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. Are there any questions from board trustees at all? That was a lot of information. Trustee Pineda?
Okay, so two questions. Regarding the contact tracing, what is the timing that parents can reasonably anticipate for receiving those letters from the principal? Will it be the same day the district is made aware, or will there be some 2 days or something?
The very same day.
Okay, thank you.
There'll be two letters, my letter from the district view, one from the school.
Okay.
The very day of this period.
Oh, your mic is not on.
So there'll be two letters. My letter goes out the day of, as well as the one from the school, the date of the occurrence.
Okay. And then the second question is just clarifying that I heard this right. The letter notification of exposure will be targeted to the students who were in contact with the affected individual.
That's right, in that class. So if it's a third grade class at Highview, where there was a case, the parents in that class only will get, they'll get the letter from the principal saying there was a COVID case in your child's class. You can elect to keep your child, those two options, and parents make that decision.
Perfect, thank you.
Nurses will no longer be calling and doing the contact tracing.
I do want to also add that sometimes we're not informed. So parents and community, it's important to call as soon as possible. And I know, you know, personally, you don't always think right away to call the school, but it's really, really important to inform the school as soon as possible. So sometimes we don't hear things to 2 and 3 days later from a parent that their child tested positive. Trustee Warner?
And then you're going to try and hook in test to stay with the option for people who want to stay and make that available to make them, to increase safety?
Yes, right now, that's the disconnect with the new guidance that permits parents to decide to not quarantine or quarantine their students. The question in our meetings is, well, now where does Test to Stay fit? Because Test to Stay was a program for unvaccinated students who were in exposure. To keep them in school, they test every day. Now parents can elect to send them to school. they don't have to keep them home. You can, so is the Test to Stay program? We are still hoping to have it. That's the question right now. We have received, I will announce to the community, about 5,000 tests from the Department of Health. We received 3 shipments. We got our last shipment today of 1,000. We received about 800 2 weeks ago, and our original order was around 3,000. So we do have the test. So we are now, the question is, how do we use the program? We want to make sure we're using it appropriately. The contact tracing came after Test to Stay, and so it kind of negates one. And so we are trying to see what we do with the test. Right now, we're still planning to roll it out on the 24th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. Any other questions, trustees? Trustee Valen?
I may be repeating what you just said, but I need to internalize. So going back to the 2 options, if I receive a letter saying my child has been in close contact because of someone in the classroom or the bus has tested positive, then I can opt to have my student stay home for 5 days while I monitor for symptoms. If my child is, regardless of my child's vaccination status. And I can send my child to school if he's asymptomatic, showing no symptoms, regardless of the vaccination status. And regardless of whether he's doing Test to Stay.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. And are there any, I'm sure you're going to send all the detailed information tomorrow. But are there any follow-on impacts then for after-school activities? Would my child who's been exposed and I elect to send them to school because they're asymptomatic, can they then stay for after-school activities?
Yes,
or-
because after-school activities is an extension of the day. So yes, if they're in school, they're in school.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Trustee Washington?
So just piggybacking off of Trustee Valen, in reference to the wonderful musical we hope that we're going to have, I just have some concern around the Omicron variant and it just, honestly, just being in the air. And when you're talking about musicals, you're talking about singing, you're talking about auditions. So what procedures are we putting in place for our after-school program where it is not as structured as the classroom when it comes to testing, when it comes to some of the CDC guidelines? Because I am a little concerned with a musical at this time for our district.
So there are no
procedures in place where students are required for anything
You have to put your mic on.
I thought it was, I'm sorry. So there are no, right now, there have been no mandates that students must say be vaccinated to be participating in extracurricular activities, and there still are not. So, does that answer? I think that answers your question.
No. So not if they're vaccinated or not, I'm just wondering what, as a district, procedures are we putting in place? Because like you just said to Trustee Valen, it is an extension of the school day. So what procedures are we putting in place to ensure that during this time that our students are not engaging in being close to each other, taking off their masks to practice, to sing? So I'm just wondering, what are we doing as a district to just allow our students to have extracurricular activities, but ensuring their safety at the same time?
And they're the same mitigating strategies we've had in place. There's, as much as possible, expected to monitor their social distancing, wear their mask. All of the health and safety strategies we have in place are the same ones we're using now for extracurricular activities. There's, nothing else has changed.
Okay, so just as a concern, just so you know, the musical, singing, dancing, just if you can kind of like just talk to the director or the principal of the school and just see what's being put in place for the students to have the program, but safe.
Sure.
Thank you, Trustee Washington. Any other trustees, questions, comments? There were just 2 things that came to my mind. Just to be as specific as possible for the public, you can find our calendars on the district website. under calendar, and then the specific calendar that talks about the give back days is under the district holiday calendar. The first, we use the snow day. The first give back day was May 27th, which is the Friday before Memorial Day. And Dr. Iverson discussed the second give back day if, for example, we had to close tomorrow or any future day. The second give back day is April 1st, which is important to note because that is the first day of the spring break week. So that means you will not have a full 5-day spring break, you would have a 4-week spring break. So I just want to bring that to everyone's attention and give you those specific dates. The second question that I have, Dr. Iverson, about the new COVID rules and protocols, one of the things that we as a district did set into place, similar to other districts, are the 2 spectator or 2 visitor rule when we have some sort of performance. You know, I remember the winter concerts where 2 guests could visit per student. And when we have our sports activities indoors, it's 2 spectators per player. Are we keeping that restriction, even though, like, for the play, we don't have any restrictions, and there's no more contact tracing?
No, now when the play is actually performed, the spectator audience will follow that 2 spectators per actor.
Okay.
So that will stay in place as it is right now for sports. But the practicing that the students are going through now, or when they began, I'll check into to make sure those protocols are in place. That Trustee Washington asked me about to see what they are. But right now, our ongoing, everyday mitigating strategies are to keep our distance, wear our mask, wash hands, sanitize buildings. All of those things are now the givens that we do all the time. So those are the mitigating strategies that are happening when they are practicing for sports, when they're practicing in their extracurriculars, when we actually have games and are performing in any area, the spectator policy will be in effect. Only 2 per athlete and/or person who's participating.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? No? If not, we're going to move on to our statements from the public. Thank you, public, for coming out today. Those of you at home that are watching on YouTube, we do have an audience here tonight. And as we have an audience at our board meeting this evening, I think it would be helpful to outline a regular protocol and some basic rules with regard to comments from the public. While the law does not require that the board permit public comment at board meetings, this Board of Education has traditionally allowed and encouraged input from the public. However, we wish to remind all present that per board policy number 1510, we require that all speakers adhere to the following protocols as to allow everyone a fair opportunity to be heard and to allow for the efficient operation of the meeting. Initially, persons wishing to address the board must advise the president of the Board of Education or the district clerk prior to the scheduled starting time of the meeting. The request is to be made in writing on a form provided by district clerk. So everyone is signed up that wants to speak tonight. If anyone additional wants to speak, please ask the district clerk, and she will make sure that you're able to sign up. Any group or organization wishing to address the Board of Education must identify a single spokesperson. Speakers will be permitted to speak for no longer than 4 minutes. Work session speakers may comment on matters related to any agenda item. The Board of Education will not permit public comment involving specific district personnel or specific students. Any such information should be directed to the superintendent and will be addressed through the appropriate channels. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene language, scandalous statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. We will take all information under advisement for the board's consideration. In most cases, there will be no response from the board during a board meeting as to keep the meeting moving. Finally, when called upon, please state your name and address for the record, for the record before beginning your public comment. We appreciate everyone's cooperation. With that said, I'm going to read this list. First speaker up is Julie I'm going to mess up your last name, I'm sorry if I do. Julie Allengy? Oh, sorry, Julia Long, thank you. Please state your name for the record and your address.
Can you hear me? Julia Long, 28 Yale Road, Hartsdale.
Okay, and our district clerk is going to start the clock. When it starts, please speak, Ms. Along.
All right. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I am here on behalf of the R.J. Bailey PTA in the capacity of president. The R.J. Bailey PTA has a wonderful 137 members, including students, families, parents, and staff members and community members. And we have maintained for 2 years a priority to promote and advocate for healthy students and families. In that vein, our organization has provided programs including a family cooking night, a conversation with a polar explorer talking about adapting to change in our modern times. And we were also the recipients of a national PTA and Nestle Waters grant on healthy hydration. Our focus on healthy families and students has a priority also on school food service, and I was so glad to hear that our conversations are elevated on that. We're heartened to hear this subject become more prominent. I'd like to share, since this has been a focus for 2 years, we have anecdotally done interviews and surveys with our student bodies and our families, and I'd like to share some of that. But before I do, a few points from the USDA requirements that should be held to for all schools. Foods of minimal nutritional value are not allowed at all. Breakfasts that are served require 1 cup per day of fruit. Lunches require 1/2 cup of fruit and 3/4 cups of vegetables. Starchy vegetables can be served at any time as long as 2 cups from underconsumed vegetable food groups and fruit groups are included in that same week. In our interviews, we have found issues with the quality of food, the portion sizes, and the variety of offering. But the first and foremost most important thing is when we've interviewed our families, many of them do not participate in the school program because their children simply do not like the food. Here's some of the examples that we've received from our families. There have been weeks that there were 0 fruit offerings at the lunch program. There's never been more than 1 vegetable served at a lunch. Pop-Tarts, compressed cereal bars, and pancakes in bags with sugar sprinkles are too sugary for my students. When a student selects a sandwich, they're not offered the sides that are offered with the main entree. Milk and apple juice tastes like the carton and leave an aftertaste in the mouth. And what we commonly refer to as the tater tot fiasco, where tater tots seem to be the vegetable of choice most days of every week and every month. What we ask you today, you've already done part of, so bless you, thank you. We ask you to embrace your responsibility and manage our food service partner. We ask in the short term that the lunches and breakfasts served meet at the very minimum the USDA requirements. And we ask that the Wellness and Education Committee please engage families and open up family listening sessions. In our homes, in our PTA activities, and in school classrooms, we are teaching our children to make healthy, positive choices. We
Ms.
would
Alon,
like
your
us.
time is up, but I want you to finish your statement, please, your sentence, please.
All right. We'd like us to walk our talk and provide the healthy, delicious meals that we teach our kids they should be choosing.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Anthony Gaines. Good evening, Mr. Gaines. Please state your full name and address.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Gaines. I live in Yonkers, 45 Ettville Avenue. Greetings to the Greenberg Board of Education and to the Central Administration. I am here this evening on behalf of the students, families, and community partners from the Greenberg My Brother's Keepers Initiative. My purpose here this evening is to acknowledge and thank the students, the families, the GTF faculty who served as mentors and community partners for the work they performed from December 2017 to currently this present day. In October, the New York State Department of Education released a report to the 31 participating school districts in the MBK programming, outlining the various work these communities completed from February 2016 to June of 2021. Within this document that I have here, the Greenberg My Brother's Keepers program has been highlighted on 3 occasions. Our first occasion was the R.J. Bailey program, and I remember a parent speaking last week about or asking if there were any mentorship programs that were occurring in the district. So to follow up to that parent, the New York State Department of Education recognized the I Am My Brother's Keepers reading program, where we had 25 students from the Woodlands Middle High School, R.J. Bailey, Lee F. Jackson, and Highview participate in a reading program. This reading program was sponsored by the MWBE Lee and Low Bebop books, where it provided culturally diverse books to the students throughout the district. So I wanted to highlight that. I also wanted to highlight that our 2021 graduate, and I know I can't say names, so I want to make sure that I don't say their name, but she was the recipient, our first recipient in this district of the MBK Adelaide Sanford Scholarship Award, where she was awarded, I believe it was either $1,500 or $2,000 per semester for her college that she's currently attending. That was also highlighted in the summary report. Lastly, from the report, our 2021 MBK fellow, who is currently a freshman at Cal State Berkeley, was acknowledged for his work at the 2021 MBK Summit that was held virtually. So with all of that being said, I wanted to take this time to thank Albany. I wanted to thank Dr. Arnell Austin, Ms. Karen Himes, Ms. Kimberly Arrington Hardaway, Regent Lester Young for their work. I also wanted to thank the mentors and the students that are currently here now. Throughout the 4 years of the MBK program that was here and that's still currently running, we've serviced over 200 students in various social emotional, community service, and family and community engagement projects. And I know that my time is running out. So I would just like to ask that my MBK fellows from 2018 to 2020, if you could please stand up. All of those students that participated in MBK programs where they... So these students here have participated in community service projects throughout Westchester County and New York State. Our 4 MBK fellows that are here today represented the district up in Albany on 2 projects called Stand and Deliver and Overcoming Adversity. So I wanted to acknowledge them. I also wanted to acknowledge the 28 vendors, because I know I'm running out of time. But there were 28 vendors. Some of those vendors were the Westchester chapter, and forgive me if I get it wrong, alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta for conducting a mental health symposium. I believe it was in Mount Vernon about 2 years ago, where some of our students participated in that mental health workshop. I also want to thank those parents, and if you mind standing up, because the parents really helped make this program a successful program. So the parents, when we knew that the funding for the Family and Community Engagement Grant had died down, the parents were so gracious enough to conduct 2 end-of-the-year barbecues, one at Travis Park and one at a parent's house. So I want to thank you as well for all the work and support that you've given for our young people in the MBK program. And I know my time is up, but there are so many things that these young people have done, and since we're honoring the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, I think that these young people should deserve a round of applause for all the work that they've done around community service, volunteer work, character education, social emotional learning. It was not just a Woodlands program, it was a district-wide program. It was actually a statewide program. And if you do the research, the MBK program is nationwide. Our students were recognized for doing a poem for MLK Day. So I know my time is up, but I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, and I wanted to thank our students and our parents and our vendors for participating in the program, and we hope to keep it going for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gaines. And you see the board members are clapping. I think all board members here are in support of the program and the amazing work that you guys have done, as well as all the students and how many student lives were touched. We do have to move on to the next speaker, who is Marilyn Pena or Marlene. And please come up to the podium and state your name and your address.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
My name is Marlene Pena. I live at 300 Terry Hill Way, White Plains, New York. My son, Urian Ledesma, is with me. He would like to speak about the importance of MBK and how it affected him or it impacted him in a positive way. I have 2 other children in the Greenberg School District also, one in Woodlands Middle School and one in Woodlands High School. MBK helped them socially, emotionally, and mentally develop themselves. They had great mentors. They had great programs. The volunteer work that they did also allowed them to expand their horizons. My children are not only MBK, but also my sister's keeper, which is my daughter, Kailani, who actually, as Mr. Gaines had mentioned to me, which I wasn't aware, that she started that in Bailey out of one suggestion. My children are explorers in the Greenberg Police Department. They have been in the Greenberg Youth Court. They've also been part of Greenberg Police Youth Camp as some of the members of MBK in the past and in the present. But this program does help them just have self-awareness, self-growth. They're so positive, they're so outgoing. They know that they have more than just what's around them, but they can reach the skies. And I'm very grateful for this program, and if it weren't for them, my children wouldn't have been able to come outside the box and actually see what they're capable of because of the program and because of the dedicated mentors and sponsors. So I'm gonna let Urian here. My son, Sebastian Ledesma, is also here who is a part of Explorers, Greenberg Youth Court, so it's Kailani, and MBK, but if it wasn't for MBK, it wouldn't really help them spread their wings the way it has. So this is Jeremy Ledesma, who goes to RJ Bailey.
Hi.
Hi.
So one of the things that I really liked about MBK is how we went to Knicks games, and also we really get to cheer on the Knicks players. And I also really miss my friends. I really want them to hang. I want to hang out with them after school, and just do all the special events and stuff. I also miss the chess and how we used to make movies in Highview. And there was also field trips and volunteering. I really want to work with robots because I remember this one time in Highview during MBK, Mr. Polanco, he brought in these little robots that we could control, and then we controlled them, and they ran they rolled around the classroom. And also, I really want to join basketball because seeing all the Knicks games got me inspired to play basketball. And plus, I've usually always loved sports. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Charlie Cooper with parent Sharon. Please come state your name at the podium and your address, please.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
We can.
Okay, my name is Charlie Cooper. I live at 105 Stonewall Circle, West Harrison. So yeah, my name's Charlie Cooper. I'm in 11th grade at the Masters School in Dobbs Ferry. I'm connected here through Mr. Gaines. He coached my basketball team for a few years in middle school. And through that relationship with Mr. Gaines, he gave me an amazing opportunity to work with the kids at my brother's keeper. And so I tutored some of the students over Zoom this past spring. But the biggest opportunity that Mr. Gaines gave me was to teach photography, a big passion of mine, to the MBK students. So I started the Exposure Club at my school. I'm a passionate photographer, so it's just something I wanted to do. And the Exposure Club, the goal was to teach photography to kids who might not otherwise have an opportunity to be exposed to certain arts. So my school administrators really liked the idea and even provided me with a grant so that I could purchase 10 cameras to teach with. So while the idea was to bring students from RJ Bailey to the Masters campus for fun photography sessions, the hope was also to foster friendships and provide mentor relationships. Unfortunately, COVID required us to move these lessons online, but I believe the 10 MBK kids who participated really learned about different aspects of photography and had fun while doing so with me and a couple of other high school students at the Masters School. So yeah, even though COVID continues to restrict us from gathering, I'm hopeful that we can continue, we'll start in-person sessions this spring and meet outdoors. And so yeah, I just wanted to say that the MBK program is amazing and that all the kids and I are lucky to have Mr. Gaines as a leader. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cooper. Thank you. Our next speaker is Erin Jacobson. please come to the mic and state your full name and address?
My name is Erin Jacobson. I'm at 155 East Hartsdale Avenue in Hartsdale. I don't know how I really follow both of those young people. They were quite exceptional, so thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Erin Jacobson. I'm a mother of a kindergartner and a third grader, and a mental health professional, all of which lead to my questions tonight. Before I begin, I first want to give a public shout out to the district's nursing and medical staff for all of their tireless work. They are working countless hours every day to do their best to ensure our children's health and well-being during the pandemic, while being on the receiving end of a lot of parent frustration, also while still doing their regular nursing duties. They deserve our patience and our gratitude, and as a parent, I am incredibly grateful. Yeah, I'd also like to thank the administration for their transparency as decisions are made to adjust our pandemic mitigation measures. It must feel like running in circles sometimes, and I appreciate the efforts of the administration and the Board of Education for doing what they can to meet the changing physical health needs of the district. That being said, I have 3 questions tonight regarding the mental health needs of our students in the district. The first question is one I've been asking for nearly 2 years, and is in regards to the district's plans for social emotional learning. Through the last 2 district budgets, a total of $300,000 has been allocated for SEL, social emotional learning. During this time, I have asked administrators, directors, trustees, and staff for clarity on how the money was spent and how those investments influence current decisions. If the administration wants shareholders to keep approving budgets, there needs to be greater transparency. So my question is, when can I expect an answer to how the money was spent and the efficacy of those investments? Last Board of Education meeting, Dr. Iverson acknowledged that there was not a current SEL curriculum implemented district-wide. While I understand the challenge that mental health poses, I find it unacceptable that not more has been done to address this need. That being said, I recently received a letter from the new social worker at Lee of Jackson. I brought it with me. And I was very excited to see that it specified that she'll be starting to implement Second Step with all the students at Jackson. My second question is this program being implemented district-wide, or is it due to Ms. Baker's own initiative that this is happening and it's only happening at Lee F. Jackson? My final question is regarding the district webpage. Ms. Baker notes that parents can access information on Second Step on their webpage, which is greatly helpful. I hope that information will be shared on the district webpage as well. Currently, you can't find out who the mental health providers are for the district, except for those in Highview. And since the search engine on the website does not work, you can't find that contact information any other way. Having this information available should be a simple fix. So my third question is, when can we expect updated and available contact information for our mental health care workers on the webpage? Speaking of the webpage, ours explicitly mentions a commitment to SEL in our vision and core beliefs, and it's implied in our mission statement. I see this as a promise to our students and our community. We keep talking about what learning our students have lost, deficits in school testing scores, and missed social interactions due to virtual learning. Yet we do nothing to address the core cause of those issues, the need for students to feel safe, connected, and competent to manage their thoughts and feelings. Everything builds upon that foundation, and I remind the board and the administration tonight of that promise. And I think that the 2 young people that spoke today and the presentation that we heard highlights the need for those connections and the need for that kind of programming. So hopefully I will hear from somebody. I will be following up in committee meetings like I usually do. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any questions, comments by board members? No, I just have a request, Dr. Iverson. I need for the website to be updated. This PPS department that Ms. Jacobson just referenced, talking about SEL staff, I looked in the PPS, in the pupil personnel department, and this is not updated. So I need this to be updated as soon as possible, as well as I'd love for us to find out why the search engine isn't working on the website. If that's just like a random glitch issue, or if this is something that needs to be addressed, please. I don't know if you have any specific response for Ms. Jacobson at this time. Okay.
Your comments are noted out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Okay, so next speaker is Michael Kosin. Am I saying that accurately? And, I'm sorry? Oh, please come to the mic and state your name properly, because I probably messed it up, I'm sorry, and your address. Thank you.
Thank you. It's actually Kogan. I apologize for my poor handwriting. And I live at 7 Rockledge Road, Hartsdale.
Hey, thank you. You have 4 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, Superintendent Iverson, trustees, and administration. I'm just here to discuss about the school communication system that's been going out to the parents lately. In the past, we have been inundated with different methods of communication, whether it be the phone blast followed by an email. With everything going on lately, I know how crazy things have been, but it seems like communication has been a little bit off. Certain parents are receiving the phone blasts, certain parents are receiving the emails. Other times, we are finding out too late that information has been released to the parents via the YouTube channel. I'm just asking if there's any way that you could look into finding a way of streamlining it so that we can have a more organized way of communicating, because especially in situations as what happened in the past week with the ice and the snow, just to make sure that everyone is aware of what's going on. I understand that last week was a rare situation, but with other situations, we would like to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There is a way to opt into information. I know I get text message, phone call, and an email, but, you know, my oldest is in 10th grade, so I don't know when I signed up or how that was. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the process at this point. No? So, Dr. Iverson, we'll get back to you. Do you have your contact information?
Actually, I do. I just wanted to add, because, yes, I've always put in both myself and my wife's information into the system, and even then, she would receive something and I wouldn't, and there were situations where I was the stay-at-home parent and she was at work, and she would get the information before I did, and I was the closest one, let's say, in an emergency, to pick up my child. So if there's a way that we can get all the information in there, and I know it's going to be aggravating to some parents, but in certain situations it might be helpful.
Okay, Trustee Valen has her hand up.
Sorry, I can't access it now because I'm blocked from entering Facebook. I do know that our district website posted the information on School Messenger on the Facebook page a week or so ago. I haven't seen it on the website, so families can access that information via Facebook to know how to set your contact information up on School Messenger. I also believe they can, to get multiple phone numbers in there, you may need to email your school principal's secretary. And then also there's the parent portal, which has contact information. So there's a multiple ways to do it. I'm not sure which is the correct way. So maybe we can get some guidance on that via our technology committee in the coming month. But for now, those are multiple ways to update some contact information: School Messenger and emailing your building.
Thank you.
Dr. Iverson, I'm sure you'll get back to Mr. Kosin, but for I can't pull up Facebook either, Trustee Valen. For the purposes of this evening, people watching, people here, do you want parents to speak with their principal directly to get up to let them know how to update, or what should we tell people to do that need to know how to get information?
Yes, I would say start with the principal, but I'll look into this tomorrow.
Thank you for coming out. Okay, we are done with statements from the public. There's no one else on this list. We're going to move on in our agenda items. Next item up for our agenda are B, presentations. We have an R.J. Bailey Elementary School presentation, and I see R.J. Bailey principal. I'm not sure if there's a couple of staff there as well. And take it away, R.J. Bailey. Oh, sorry, I have a question. Trustee Washington?
Yes, President Mears, can we have like a 2-minute break?
Let's take a 2-minute break. It's a request.
Thank you very much.
We will return at 9:20. Thank you. blocked. You see,
Oh.
so it's going to come up a little, but not fully. Check these kids. Oh, she texted.
We have to go up. Oh, that's right, because it's backwards. We have to go downstairs. Okay. Put my scarf around him. Keep dropping it. Put that on the floor in case something falls in it.
I'm going to go hide myself. Shoes are untied.
Oh.
Jeez. We got to go in ordinance.
Yes, we do. My coat. I'm a little cold.
I got myself embarrassed. Look at this department, PPS. Dr. Iverson, look at it. I pulled up when she was talking to PPS. Look at this.
What's PPS?
Who's the person?
Yeah.
What is it? This one is the one that we had such a big deal over in the bracket.
Oh, that's it.
I don't even know all these people here, but we gotta change that. They gotta update it. Kiana's cold. Okay, okay, we're gonna resume. Steve? We're good? Okay, great. And here you go, Ms. Rossi.
Good evening, Dr. Iverson. Good evening, Dr. Macaluso, board trustees. Good evening, Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, parents, community members, the students who were here. They're definitely a true testament to the education that they are receiving at Greenberg Central School District, and we are very proud of them. Tonight, I apologize because the clicker could not read Mr. McLee's computer, so I'll kind of try to give him a signal. Okay. So tonight, I have quite a number of staff with me, and I will introduce them in alphabetical order. Mr. Della Cava, who is representing the ELA team. Ms. Dove, who's representing art. Ms. Gabbard, who's representing the math team. Ms. Khan, representing science. Mr. McLee, who does it all. Mrs. Parker was a part of the presentation. Unfortunately, she had a family emergency and could not make it, so I will do my best to present her area. And Ms. Rodinelli, our librarian. Congratulations again, Ms. Rodinelli. And Mr. Wooten, our social studies rep. So we're here to just basically try to demonstrate what goes on in a typical day for a student at R.J. Bailey. All students receive their ELA and their math instruction in a 90-minute block every single day. That is daily. They receive 90 minutes of instruction of science and social studies on alternate days. So if they have social studies on even days, they'll have science on odd days. And what happens in that block is, in the literacy block, we have an interactive read aloud, which is about 20 minutes or so. There's guided reading groups along with independent work, and there's always a TWR activity. Same thing for the math block. We have whole class instruction, and then the students are broken up into small groups and independent work. A lot of that work can also incorporate the iReady. Science and social studies also follow the same protocol. We have whole class instruction for the first period of that block, and then it is followed by TWR activities and group projects. And then all of the special area classes are 45 minutes. And those are just pictures of some of the resources that we use to deliver instruction. So I believe we will first go with Mr. Della Cava, who will apprise us of what happens during the ELA block.
Good evening, Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, Board President, Ms. Mayers, and all trustees. So our Fontes and Pinnell program is there's three major components. The first component is the interactive read aloud, which promotes the joy of reading, develops children's vocabulary, and increases their ability to think, talk, and write about text that fully engages their interest. Interactive read alouds allow for children to share their thinking, make connections, and provide students with opportunities to develop and maintain positive relationships. It also contributes to social emotional learning through the stories read in class. Our mini lessons are short, concise, explicit, inquiry-based lessons about a principle that students can apply to their own independent reading. The interactive read aloud books are used within these lessons to help drive instruction. And our guided reading program allows teachers to meet with students in a small group to provide them with instruction time that supports students' comprehension and fluency using texts on their level. The writing, so there's, yes, there we are. Thank you, Mr. McGlee. So here is a single paragraph outline. And obviously, there's a lot of work put into this because you see the crossouts. And in this outline, the child is brainstorming their ideas on a certain writing prompt. And they're developing it. This will then become a paragraph. As we progress with this, with paragraph writing, they become compositions. And therefore, it elevates them to the high school level where they'll be doing mostly compositions. And here you have a nice paragraph about Amanda Gorman. And of course, there's always proofreading and revising being done over and over again, and that's why you see crossouts in the paragraph. Just a little background on that is the TWR program, which is the Writing Revolution, is a specific set of writing strategies that are embedded in the curriculum across all content areas and grade levels. This approach starts with sentence writing and leads to the development of compositions, like I said earlier. The TWR method enables students to master the skills that are essential to become skilled writers. The TWR program method helps students to communicate more effectively in writing and speaking, and most importantly, to elevate their thinking. Thank you very much. Who's next? Okay. Ms. Gabbard, thank you. I left it on. Okay.
All right, it's on? Yes. Hi, good evening. I'm Christine Gabbard. I am a 6th grade math teacher at RJB. Good evening, Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, and to the board. There you are. Okay. Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what a 90-minute math block would look like on an average day. So sometimes it varies if we are solving a math investigation or if we're maybe having an experiment with a math problem or something, but on a normal day, we would start with a math warm-up. And for the math warm-up, most of the kids have a slate and a marker. For some reason, they seem a little more engaged when they have the slate and the marker. And it's a time for the kids to practice math automaticity and fluency. So we're working on basic fact recall, but also things like proportional reasoning. What does a fraction look like in a diagram? What is a third of 15? What does that look like on a number line? So we're doing those kinds of warm-up activities that will support the lesson that's coming up. It's a very low-stress time. The kids are encouraged to show each other their slates and their strategies and to learn from each other, from their diagrams, and from their thinking. After the warm-up, which usually the warm-up is based on what we've seen in previous work or the work that will be presented during the math meeting, the next step is our math meeting. And the math meeting usually begins with a question. And all of the kids may not be quite ready to solve it, but it's leading us where we're going to go in that lesson. So after the kids have a few minutes to think about it, we'll say, what are your questions? What are you wondering? And those questions and their comments will help guide the lesson with the teacher's direction to reach a main objective, a main idea, and a big idea in math. You can go to the next slide. After that, after we have the math meeting, we go to small group work. During this time, I, or whoever the other teachers are, will meet with groups that have been selected based on classroom work, iReady work, where we see the kids are. It could be based on a previous test, a pre-test, a post-test. So we're trying to group the kids who some of them may need more challenging work, and some of them may need basic algorithm practice. And while the teacher is meeting with those small groups, the other kids would be doing iReady math, or a project, or playing a game, or independent or partner work. And then the last part of math is the closing, and this is a really important part of the lesson, but it can get a little crazy at the end trying to get everything done, but it's probably the most important part. And that's where we come together to discuss what did we learn, what are our questions going forward, and what should we still be practicing and focusing on. So we might solve a problem together to end the lesson, we might have an exit question, or we might just have a share about what we're wondering for future lessons. So that is a typical day in math.
Thank you. Good evening, board, Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, so nice to see you. My name is Joe Wooten. I'm the 4th grade social studies teacher at R.J. Bailey. I'm going to talk to you about our social studies program this evening. The 4th grade team meets as a grade level on day 5 of our school cycle. At these meetings, the ELA teachers and I discuss the literacy skills and the TWR skills they will be teaching for the next week. From there, I make my plans on how to incorporate the literacy and the TWR skills into my content. Our content is a partnership between the PWC-BOCES.org program and the International Baccalaureate program. 4th grade focuses on New York State history and government. 5th grade focuses on the Western Hemisphere. 6th grade focuses on the Eastern Hemisphere. Our program meets the needs of the IB program because it's inquiry-based, meaning that the learning process engages students by making real-world connections through exploration and high-level questioning. It is an approach to learning that encourages students to engage in problem-solving and experiential learning. Our students engage in debates, projects, and current events activities. This is beneficial because it allows students to apply what they've been learning in the classroom to real-world and personal experiences. Our students are living through history, and in many ways, they are a part of history right now. Making connections, acquiring new understandings, knowledge, behaviors, skills, values, attitudes, and preferences is part of the entire social studies experiences. Speaking for the 4th grade social studies program, social-emotional learning is embedded in our day through a series of creative writing activities. Students share personal stories and interest through a series of prompts. This activity allows our students to better comprehend their emotions, to feel their emotions fully, and to demonstrate empathy for others. The social studies team at R.J. Bailey, including 5th grade teacher Naisha Riley and 6th grade teacher James Thorpe, thank you for your time tonight. Thanks so much. Have a good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, and to the board. I am Joanna Khan. I've been teaching science at R.J. Bailey for the last 4 years. Welcome tonight. So we have a little Google presentation for you to let you know what's going on in science. So while it comes up, I'll just start talking. So over the last 3 years, we transitioned nicely into using the Science Dimension program at R.J. Bailey, which is definitely aligned with next generation science standards. We have a curriculum, and we always start off with 4th and 5th grade and 6th grade. Our first unit of study is always engineering. It really captures the students' interest, and it brings them into learning more about science and understanding that how nonfiction reading, it's not easy, but we're going to get through it during the year. You can click to the next slide. So in 4th grade, after we study engineering, we go into engineering and information transfer, specifically looking at energy, waves, and light. After that is energy and collisions, structures and functions of organisms, the changing earth, and then we end with natural resources and hazards. In 5th grade, after we talk about engineering, we go into matter, energy and matter and ecosystems, earth systems, and we end with systems in space. In 6th grade, after engineering, we talk about cells, reproduction and heredity, ecology and the environment, and Earth's water and atmosphere. And this is, next slide, thank you. And this is pretty much how we do it. So through social emotional learning and IB, we're definitely making sure that we address those things that come up during the day, during our lessons, during our planning, and looking at our curriculum planners to make changes as needed. Our students, I think I love the labs more than the students, but our students are coming in wondering, what are we going to do for lab today? I always get that question every time I go into the room. And so through labs, we're building those hands-on experiences that the students need to really get them to think critically about science and to deepen their understanding of scientific phenomena. Our students are also building their observational and verbal skills through the lab work. Through lab work, we're going to lead them into writing scientifically. We definitely are continuing those skills that they're learning through TWR to make sure that their writing is clear, using evidence-based information from their text or even from their lab to further their scientific knowledge and enhance their writing skills. Next slide. So this is just a snapshot of some of the labs that we did. Our goal for science teachers at R.J. Bailey is to not only spark their curiosity in science, but to also hopefully lead them into careers in that field. Thank you very much. Yes. Mm-hmm.
We need to go back to earlier years and start preparing the students. Is this along the lines of preparing the students for more advanced science as we move up in the curriculum?
Absolutely, especially with using the Science Dimension program, that research component is embedded in it, and we absolutely have the students do research along with any activities or any lesson or unit that we're doing. There's a research component that we try to make sure that the students are using. You're welcome.
Thank you. I'll wait for Mr. Misgley to leave that particular link and come on. I'll be representing for Ms. Parker. I'm not as good as Ms. Parker. She's an expert at what she does. Ms. Parker teaches home and careers to our 4th and 5th grade students, and she teaches health to our 6th graders. So Mrs. Parker wanted for me to share what a typical day with her students. She sees the students for 45 minutes, and her students are being, she delivers instruction to them twice in a 6-day cycle. And in her instruction, SEL is embedded into the curriculum before class starts. They take a few minutes to transition, reminded to be mindful of their body and breathing. She does a lot of breathing exercises with them. Relaxing music and visuals are always on the background. She checks in with the kids to see how their morning was or how their day was, depending on the time of day that she sees them. She infuses the IB vocabulary into her lessons. For example, she says leaders must be reflective because, and that sort of sparks a discussion within the students. She also does this really cool thing with Pass the Compliment. So if you see the image to the lower right, that's a student's name, and the students pass it around, and they kind of walk around, or now they can't really walk around, but they pass around the paper, and their peers write down compliments relating to that student. So that is health, home and careers, and health. Ms. Stubb.
Good evening. My name is Mary Dove. Good evening, Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, President Mars, and board trustees. I'm the art teacher at RJB. I absolutely love my job and am so honored to work with our students. Social emotional learning is embedded into the curriculum. Art is inherently related to your emotions. And so it's wonderful to start class with a mindful minute, similar to how Ms. Parker starts, to let the students check in with themselves and transition into class. Art, I try to always be hands-on and have the projects be student-centered so that the creativity, the work is coming from them, not from me. Our curriculum is aligned with IB. It's interdisciplinary and reflects our whole school community. One of our biggest strengths is our diversity. So I work closely with other teachers and staff during Hispanic Heritage Month, upcoming Black History Month, Women's History Month, and various celebrations throughout the year. This year with COVID, we've tried to get outside for our art class as much as possible, which is so healing for everyone. The students can have a mask break and can spread out. So this lesson here, we went out during the fall and did leaf rubbing. The students had a chance to interact with the nature outside, to be hands-on, to really observe and slow down. And then we came back inside and did some research. What are the trees around us? So the students had a lot of fun with that. Another social emotional learning lesson here is positive self-talk. We talked about positive self-talk, and the students illustrated and wrote a message to themselves. You can see here, and they put those on their shields at the beginning of the school year as we were all entering this kind of new and scary experience, but they're doing great, and they have not given up. And then this last photo here is an example of during Hispanic Heritage Month, the students were weaving on looms, and I thought, well, let's take it outside and do it. And we did, and we just really enjoyed ourselves. So that's a snapshot of art this year. Thank you.
Hello. Good evening, Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, President Mars, and the board. Thank you. The SEL curriculum is embedded in the library program as well. We start off the first 10 minutes. I play some calming music for the children to be centered as background music, and I circulate just to do a check-in. I see the students twice in a 6-day cycle. Some students, depending on their set schedule, only once. So it's really important to check in to see what their needs are. There are certain students that really may need a book. So I have a card outside the classroom. They can check out a book. And sometimes I have a library clerk, Ms. Wilson, working with me to make sure every kid has a book in their hand. The choices during the first 10 minutes, they could sketch, independently read. Sometimes I will read to them as well. And while I'm reading, they love sketching as well, to follow along with the story. And it really just centers them and allows them to express themselves. And sometimes their sketches lead to an interest in what they want to research, which is really, it activates that part of their brain so that they can really connect to what their interest is. Currently, we're choosing a topic or a person to research for our project for Black History Month, and we're working along with the Black History Month Committee, along with Mr. Clayton. A lot of the specialists are working with him as a school, and they're choosing to either create a Google slide or independently work with a partner. Many of the students are working in groups right now, though. They're really excited about that. Books are circulated every day, including their favorite genre of graphic novels, and currently biographies, autobiographies, non-fictional text, which is a big push right now because in the district and in our school we're noticing that the kids need to be exposed more to non-fictional texts. Some kids are choosing actually to research somebody in their family, so it really depends on their interest and what they're writing about and sharing with the class when they're finished. And I think the next slide is IB. Oh, question? what I'm doing right now is with the databases. I'm working along with Dr. Palmer in the high school, middle school, and we're actually using the databases that they have on the Woodlands website. We share them. And I'm teaching the kids that this is the best way to search for the topic they're looking at, because the databases, we pay for them as a district. They're safe. They're finding information on there that is reliable. And we're steering them away from Google searches, because it's, first of all, it's not always verifiable, and it's also too many things pop up, and it's overwhelming for the children. So I'm using databases, and I do have some databases that are kid-friendly, like Kiddo and Kidtopia, that are not on the Woodlands website, that are more geared to their age group. So it really depends. The sixth graders now are working on IB projects. We're starting with exhibition, so they're a little more advanced than the fourth graders, and they're ready to learn how to do the keyword searches at this point and get them ready for middle school. Sure. I'm also the IB coordinator, so I'm going to be talking to you about IB with Ms. Dove. As I mentioned, there are the exhibitions coming up. We'll get to that, but the IB learner profiles are embedded into the curriculum, and we do have a program right now. You may have noticed when you came in, there were slides of the children that were voted by their classroom and their peers to be citizens of the month. So every month we're going through the district calendar, so this month is being reflective. So they know that we're noticing to see who's reflective, and it's something that's discussed in all of the classrooms in the curriculum. And so the last several months we've had a bulletin board right outside of the office. The kids have been acknowledged by having their picture posted up on the bulletin board and also rotated on a screen. So the morning announcements, we have the children involved in that, and teachers. We rotate every day. Different students are actually announcing quotes that tie into the IB Learner Profile of the month. And we're celebrating it in the hallway and acknowledging the students and having them come down, and they love seeing their picture up on the bulletin board. And there's usually a crowd around their bulletin board, very happy to see their faces of their friends. And Ms. Dove is going to come up and talk about the exhibition.
So this year I'm the exhibition coordinator, and we're really excited to have an exhibition at Bailey. This is a culminating experience for our students in the PYP program. They will be soon working in small groups to plan a self-driven inquiry that will identify, investigate, and offer solutions to real-world problems. So we have met with the students. They have completed a survey to gauge their interest in different topics. We're currently grouping them, putting the puzzle together, assigning mentors, staff, teachers all across the building to mentor these small groups, and linking them with people who have similar interests. And the students will begin working in February. So some of the topics are health, including sports, nutrition, social emotional well-being. Technology is a really big one. Social issues, activism, government, environmental issues, sustainability, the arts, visual and performing, and current events, our changing world and the pandemic. So we are really excited about that and look forward to seeing the great work that they do in the coming months.
So as you've heard, a common theme throughout the building and within all the classrooms and throughout the school has been SEL. We're trying our best to touch base with the students throughout the day, throughout the week, just to see what's going on, how they're feeling, and how we can support them. We do have a partnership with Manhattanville. Bailey's had it for many, many years. The liaison and I met prior to the summer, and when each year we discuss a focus for that year, and the focus was SEL. And it was important that we touch base with our staff as well. The pandemic has really impacted staff as well as it has the families and students. So what we've done thus far with Manhattanville is they've offered a couple of workshops through the staff meetings. We've had a workshop on mindfulness, and our last workshop was on coping skills. What you can do when you're at that moment where you just need to center yourself. And they shared, the trainer shared some coping skills that the staff can use for themselves, and then how they can turnkey it and use it for the students. If you know, I'm going to skip to the bottom bullet. If you've heard throughout that as a school, 10 minutes into every single class, is that moment where there's background music being played, the students are coming in, transitioning into their class, and the teachers are doing quick check-ins with the students as they transition from class to class. So that's usually the first 10 minutes. This also gives the teacher the opportunity to kind of see as the kids are walking in. You know, it's hard to read their face now with the mask, but sometimes you could tell, you know, I say there's this one student who you could tell he's smiling because his eyes just stretch out. And so it's just a quick check-in. And so we try not to have an SEL time. This is just, it's something that if we do it every day, the kids we're not really pinpointing, but it's a part of everyday curriculum. When we went virtual, we were trying to figure out a way of how we can reach our students and their families and how we can provide SEL activities. So we created a virtual wellness room. And every student in the school, it's a Google Classroom, every student in the school was invited to this virtual classroom. And we decided that, you know, when we went back, it was a good idea. It was something that they really looked forward to. The students can, Mr. McLean, can you please go to the next slide? That link will take you to, this is an example. So this is the virtual wellness room for the month of January. And so our PPS staff, our psychologist, our social worker, our PE team, the arts, music, and our world languages, every month they will update the links. And the students can go on. It's asynchronous. They can do it whenever they want. It's not graded. It's not judgmental. It's just if they need to do some yoga, they can link on that and go and follow what's on the screen. There's artwork. You know, again, sometimes it's very soothing to sit and draw or create something. So this is something that the students really, really like. And the teachers love finding sites that will excite our students and help them cope. So you've heard about all the great things in the classrooms, and now it's a matter of, well, okay, these are all great, the resources are wonderful, the delivery of instruction is working, the instructional time has been increased for the students. Well, how do we know that our students are learning? And if they are learning, what do we do next? And if they're not learning, how do we meet their needs? So we have data meetings, and the data meetings operate differently depending on what area it is. So we've had a data meeting with our district literacy specialist, Mr. Washington, myself, the ELA, and the reading teachers as well. And we discussed the Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessment scores, the levels. So we will meet with each teacher, the reading teacher that services those students, and we see where they are, what strides they've made, what their strengths are, and where we need to make any changes. The groups are then created. So they're fluid groups, so students can go in one group and move on to another one. We also have data meetings regarding the Writing Revolution. That's actually with the staff from the Writing Revolution. So the students actually just submitted their middle of year assessments, and the teachers grade those papers, and it's pretty cool because everybody's on a computer, and you get all of these writing samples. And so there could be 5 of us grading the same written sample. We wouldn't know it. They come up in at different times for different people, and then it kind of synthesizes the information. Say, okay, they all seem to agree about it's a 3 or 4 or beginning or proficient, and that's how the students are scored. Math, for the first time, we've also, with Mr. Washington, myself, and math, and the AIS math teachers, we started data meetings as well, and I'll get into a little bit of how that operates. And then with the iReady, we used the information that we found from the beginning of year assessments, the diagnostic. We looked at it and we said, what can we do as a school to prepare students for that next level? So as a school, we looked at it and we thought, if you look at the very bottom, the colorful bar, it is the data from the beginning of year. That's what BOE stands for, diagnostic, and that's only for comprehension of informational text. So our science and social studies teachers were added to the iReady portal so that they can have access to their students. And there is a toolkit on iReady that the teachers can also access. So part of their teaching will also include strategies of how to attack an informational text. So it doesn't have to only be related to content area, and so that's how we are striving to improve the comprehension of informational text. So, and I apologize, I don't have a pointer, so I'm just going to try to explain. If you look at the picture of the spreadsheet on the upper left-hand corner, you see green at the top. So we implemented this year, and what we did is with the math team, we decided, we went through the curriculum maps and said, okay, what is it that I want my students to learn and be able to do during this unit, this chapter? They decided, they assessed the students, and then what the spreadsheet does is the first column will give you the score of what the student received, and then the next 3 columns is actually what standards are we focusing on, what standards are we assessing. So a particular assessment could have many standards, but we're not necessarily looking to assess that particular standard at that time. So the teachers chart all this, and all we do is put met or not met for that particular standard. And Dr. Iverson started the district on a book talk. And so it's the data team's experience. And what it did is kind of broke down what our PLCs would look like. So we use this data, and the teachers are coming prepared to the PLC meetings with this data already looking the way that you see it now. So when we're ready for the PLC meeting, we'll say, well, I see student X has met all the standards. What am I going to do for that student? I see student A who has not met the standard in the column that's E, which is fluently divide multi-digit numbers using the standard algorithms. And that's what they talk about. And the AIS teachers are part of that discussion, and they have provided supplemental materials for the teacher to use during the small group. If you look to the upper right-hand corner, those colorful charts, that's something, data walls that we started a few years back. And so each data wall represents a different grade. So there's a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th grade. And that's what we use to base our discussions when we meet with the literacy specialists, the ELA teachers, and the AIS providers. So there are students who, if they've met the standard, well, how can I get the student who has assessed at the level N? What do I need to do to move them to level O? And that's where the specialists come in and say, you know what, to get them out of the N, you really need the inferential. So let's drill with the inferential standards and learning opportunities and help these students move along. And then also right underneath the math, we have the TWR data that we get, and that will be assessed during the grade level, because that is the the ELA, the science, and the social studies teachers all together, and they look at how the kids are doing with their writing, and strategize what can we do to move them to the next level. So that's what we do with the data. Yes, Mr. Warner.
Okay, so obviously you work with this data on an individual student-by-student basis. It's also possible that you'll find, are you finding that there are holes in the curriculum? Are you finding that sometimes you look across the board and a whole bunch of students that will not get one thing, and then you need to change what lessons are teaching another time?
Yeah, we find that in certain cohorts, there may be deficiency in one particular area. What we found in our analysis was that we really need to increase the fluency. So the teachers have incorporated some fluency drills. It's just a couple of minutes each day to try to get the automaticity there. You're welcome. Mr. McLean? And then the after-school programs are still going on. They are virtual. Cartooning, engineering, Bailey Broadcasting Club are actually run by Mr. McLee. The kids are loving them. He posts their videos. Then we have yearbook and newspaper. The drama club is also virtual, chorus, and then we have strings as well. We inform our parents. I send a daily message out. It started when we went remote. And just the parents appreciated the reminder of just what day we were following. We're on a 6-day cycle, so it was helpful to know we're on day 4 and they can follow along that schedule. Any upcoming reminders, so for example, the reminders for the home tests that are available are on there as well. The iReady testing information is on there, letting parents know that next week we're preparing for it so that they can help us pump up the excitement and get students ready for that. A lot of the teachers are using the Remind app, and obviously email and phone calls. And so basically that's RJ Bailey in a snapshot. I wish we were in person. We invite you to come to the classes and just see for yourselves the wonderful things that are happening. And we really thank you for your support and all of the resources that you are providing for us to be able to deliver the instruction. Mr. Warner.
Okay, so then can you make sure, Dr. Iverson will make sure that the board gets a copy. Thank you for your presentation, Ms. Rossi. For the record, it's Mayers, my last name, not Mars, yeah, Mayers, it rhymes with stairs or, hairs with the M. Do any trustees have any questions now that the presentation is complete? Trustee Washington?
I just have a question in reference to your AIS program. So your 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, so all the community needs to know that you have state tests in your school. But you have an AIS program. How do you schedule the general education students that need AIS? How do you schedule your special education students, your inclusion students, and even your students?
Okay, so, thank you, Mr. Lewis. The way that the students are scheduled is in a 6 days, each day the students have 2 specials. So in a 6-day cycle, we make sure that the students get what, we make sure that they receive the credit that they need for health and home and career. We make sure that they receive the amount of minutes that they need in phys ed. And then it leaves room now, so you're looking at areas, for example, I said that they would receive 2 of the same special in a 6-day cycle. So a student who has reading AIS may have 1 out of the 2 of arts, but we do make sure that they get something all of the time. And the students, regardless of what class that they're in reading, they are scheduled based upon the level that they have tested. So we in most cases, we focus on a class with the students in that particular level. And for the math, the way that they're broken up is into level 1 and level 2. So the level 1 students are receiving intervention through the Do the Math program, and that is where they are. You hear me now? So in the skills.
It was. True, 1, 2.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Level 2 is standards-based, so that particular teacher will work with the classroom teachers and they are part of those data meetings, so they're also following the standards. But the students are scheduled for it. It isn't as, well, I'm busy doing this, and we can't see them now. And also, it's partial pull-out, and then also the teachers are going inside so that they could see the math AIS teachers, that is.
And then I just want to make sure, as a district with AIS, making sure that we have enough resources to have AIS teachers in our building. Also, when it comes to math, because that is a focus that Dr. Iverson's talking about, and when it comes to reading. Number 2, as a district, when it comes to iReady, because I saw that you had your data spreadsheets, and we were looking at aspects, but I know iReady actually can pull the standards, and I want to make sure that as a district, we have full resources of iReady, meaning every aspect of iReady that we're supposed to have, so the teachers aren't doing double work. So when you have them doing that spreadsheet, iReady can give us the standards. iReady can tell us what the students need, what their strengths are. So please just make sure that we have full access to every component of iReady so that we can make sure the funding is there, just so the teachers don't have to continue to do extra work on top of something that's already part of the program. So that's something you can get back with Dr. Iverson, and if we need to add any more funding to it, hopefully as a district we can be a help to all teachers.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Mars.
Oh, God. It's Mayor's. Is there anyone else who has any questions? Any other trustees? Here, Trustee Pineda?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to say I really enjoyed the presentation. All the care and attention to the social emotional needs is something that I think every one of us really appreciates and supports, and I think there's nothing better we could be doing at this time but supporting our students in that way, so thank you.
We also thank you as a board for your support in acknowledging the importance of SEL. Because, you know, we can have the greatest instructor with the greatest resources, but if somebody's just not ready to learn or to deliver that instruction, it's just not going to be as effective. So, you know, kudos to you for recognizing that and giving us the opportunity to open it up.
Okay, thank you. Any other trustees? Any questions or comments? I just wanted to say I had posed a question. I was writing a question regarding diversity, but I was very pleased with Ms. Dove and Ratinelli bringing it up. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing with our students, including diversity into their education. The question that I have is about curriculum alignment with Woodlands Middle High School. As a parent here, I have two children, one in the middle school, one in the high school, and they've went through Bailey. And I'm just wondering around the curriculum alignment. I do see that they do have some loopholes at times, and that probably because of COVID and everything that we've been through with remote learning. But I'm wondering, how does RJ Bailey speak to, communicate with, and align with Woodlands Middle High School for curriculum?
It's a great point. It is something that we do have to increase. Towards the end of last year, it's not working? Should I use both of them? Hello? Okay. Towards the end of last year, I did work with Mr. Smith and the assistant principal of the middle school, and we actually coordinated a PLC meeting with all of the math teachers, so that the 7th grade teachers were telling our teachers where they're finding many of the gaps, and then our teachers had a chance to question them as well and to say, you know, what else is it that you need? What strategies do you want us to use? This is what we're using. So we had that, but we need to do more of it. You're welcome. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share, and thank you for all of your support. So because of this, they can have 2 hours tomorrow, right? Thank you all for,
Thank you all for coming out very late. It's good night. It's 10 o'clock at night, so I know you got to turn around. Well, maybe not with the snow. We have a 2-hour delay, so there you go. Somebody's glasses.
I know the age, but I still love it.
Girls are from Mars. Okay, we're going to get back to our agenda. Thank you again to our staff for coming out late to do this presentation. Next on our agenda is committee reports. The time is now 10:08 p.m. Thank you for those of you who have stuck around with us. Are there any committee reports? Trustee Warner.
I do not have a report, but the next Finance and Facilities Committee meeting will be January 27th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. A link will be provided on the online district calendar and sent out to committee members. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Warner. Trustee Thomas?
No report either, but the Community Engagement and Communications Committee will be meeting this Saturday at 11 a.m., and you can find the information on the district calendar.
Thank you, Trustee Thomas. And Trustee Vallon?
Yes, the Governance Committee met last week. Governance and Policy Committee met last week. Included in the board packet was a recommendation for the use of a meeting evaluation tool to continue our self-reflection and on our team dynamics and to improve the efficiency of our meetings. I'm not sure if all board members had a chance to review that tool and if we are ready to get a consensus as to whether we can begin using that.
Okay, let's go around. Are you okay with using the tool, Trustee Valen?
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Thomas? I need you to review that document. Trustee Warner?
Yes, I reserve judgment until we've had a little more experience with it. I want to try it and then critique it out afterwards.
And Trustee Pineda?
I'm on the committee that recommended it, so yes.
Trustee Washington?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm in agreement as well. So Trustee Warner, right in line with what you're suggesting, maybe we can try it after this meeting and give it a try and then get some feedback for next meeting if folks like it and want to continue to use it.
Okay, and furthermore, we discussed more the policy on adding the student member to the board. After receiving recommendations from Mr. Smith and his team, a draft policy has been written and sent to the lawyers for approval. We've also asked the question as to whether or not we'd be able to, the overall goal is to get that in place up and running for next year, with elections to be held in by the student body in the spring of this year for current juniors, with the help of the middle high school student government. One of the questions outstanding to the lawyers is whether we can get a student on the board for the remainder of this year, and so it's an outstanding question as to how quickly we can get the policy approved so we can put that in place. So more updates, hopefully at the next meeting.
Thank you, Trustee Valen. And okay, you're not asking us for anything else, right? Okay, great. Let's move on. Any other committee reports? Trustee Pineda.
Okay, so I have a Safety and Technology Committee report here. I'll try to make it brief since it's already 10:11 p.m. The Safety and Technology Committee met on January 11th. The meeting was called to order at 6:02 p.m. In attendance, Carlos Ramirez, Ashley Pineda, Chris Fallon, David Warner, Lisa Raymond. On the agenda, we talked about the status of technology at GCSD report. We reviewed the fact that as of the time of the committee meeting, 657 surveys had been completed by a district in terms of the technology available at home that the state was asking for. There still are approximately 900 students that have not responded to the survey as of yet. Another reach out will be happening. We talked about Chromebook replacement devices. As we all know, we've talked about this in the past. Due to COVID, we have concerns. Are there enough devices? As of that meeting, no students were in need of a device. We do have an update on the 150 Chromebook order that we had placed last August. As of the time of that meeting, the 23rd of January was the anticipated delivery date. That has moved several times, but as of now, that's the anticipated delivery date. And there were an additional 50 devices that were trying to be located as well. That is still pending. We talked about furthering the conversation on co-pay amounts being added to the next revision of the parent agreement. This was, again, to cover non-accidental damage to devices, to the Chromebooks. That is still a conversation that's happening at the administration level. We had also talked about the GCSD email accounts not having access to communications from the College Board. That is a conversation that's happening between the high school and administration, so there'll be an update at the next meeting. We also touched on communications for foul weather events, specifically on bus routes. And as we know, very recently, as of a few days ago, we already had the first instance of that. It did work in that case, and all of the schedules and all the route information that previously was not in the system was all put together and entered into the system, and we have proof of that based on the communication that went out last week. So with that said, that's working. We had inquired about Infinite Campus as being used as a potential replacement for eSchool Plus. We have confirmation that there will be an additional cost of approximately $28,000 per year to use Infinite Campus, and the technology team and administration believes that they can get the majority of the functionality of that system using our current system, eSchool Plus. They're working on it. LTE, insufficient communication letter to the PSC, the Public Service Commission. We have now shared the draft of the letter that Dr. Iverson was signing with the CEC committee and asked them to reach out to other community-based organizations that may feel the need to also put their voices, let their voices be heard with the Public Service Commission, advocating for the fact that the Greenberg neighborhood community and neighborhood in general does not have sufficient LTE coverage, and that comes into play during emergencies or anything in that matter. So that's a work in progress. In terms of parent-teacher conference meetings updates, we had previously talked about using Zoom and the breakout rooms idea potentially as an option for that. That will be tested on a small scale just to see how it works and get some familiarity, and the administration and the technology team will then make a decision based off of that. This is specifically just for parent-teacher conferences. We're not talking about any change to classrooms or using Google Meet or anything like that. That's all still the same. We had a brief presentation provided by Mr. Ramirez on embedded keyboarding instruction in the classrooms, specifically using learning.com, and we had a conversation on that. We also talked about iReady instruction and the middle-of-year assessment that was going on. And then we talked about a few safety open session items. Specifically, we had an update on the student pedestrian safety when walking home. There's the overhead lights. Some of them were out in December, and they were looking into it. We talked about how assigned seats on the bus how that process was going to be implemented, because communication had just come out very recently before that meeting. And at that point in time, we were told that that would begin the following day after the meeting for pre-K through 6th grade, and the middle high school was still working on their implementation. And then we had a question on how was Test to Stay going to happen, because of course at that point in time, Test to Stay was what had just been announced, and we were told that meetings were being held. Meetings had been held a week prior, and the current week of that meeting to discuss how that would be implemented. And obviously, as we know now, that's already changed again, because guidance has changed again, and that's the thing with COVID, right? With that said, after that, we went into closed session to talk about some safety and security specific items, and the meeting closed at 7:39 p.m. The next meeting of the Safety and Technology Committee is scheduled for Tuesday, February 8th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Pineda. Are there any more committee reports? No? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to move on in our agenda. It's 10:17 p.m., and we are at my board president's report. Just a couple of things I wanted to talk about tonight. First, I want to introduce everyone to our brand-new district clerk. This is a district clerk change of over 17 years. So our new district clerk is Joya Ponticello. Joya, do you want to say hello to folks? You have a wireless mic there. And the board did an extensive search for a district clerk. We interviewed several people. We looked at tons of resumes, and we settled on Joya, and she's been wonderful so far. So hello, welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yes, all right. Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I am very excited to start this position and work with you guys. Just a little bit of background on myself. I am from Westchester County. I graduated from Mamaroneck High School in Mamaroneck, New York. I graduated with a business degree from Concordia College in Bronxville. And I've lived in Westchester County for 36 years. So I am very familiar with the district and the surrounding districts. I do have a background in hospitality management, specifically executive meetings and events, where I served previously as the Director of Conferences and Events at Terrytown House Estate and Conference Center. I've been working very diligently with Ivy on the duties that come out of the district clerk's office, and we're hoping to make this transition as smooth as possible for everybody. As you guys all know, my office is currently here at Woodlands High School. So if you need anything from me, please reach out to me. My contact information is listed on the website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ponticello. Welcome. And for those of you that may fear, we did not lose Ivy Krause. She has moved to a different position in the district. She is now Dr. Iverson's secretary. So as Ms. Ponticello mentioned, there is a very smooth transition that's going to occur with the new district clerk. Ms. Krause has been our district clerk for 17 years, and you are amazing. So I just want to thank you as well for your 17 years of service to the Board of Education. Okay, next thing on my agenda to talk about is discussing the fact that we have athletic scholars. I learned as a parent, and I just want to bring this to everyone's attention, that we have an athletic scholars group here at the district. We have 6 teams that in the fall qualified to be athletic scholars. And in order for the team to qualify, 75% of the team had to have a 90 or above averaged in their academics. Out of those 6 teams, we have 52 students. Again, they're varsity only, and they had to have 90 or above returning to school this year in that first semester of classes, the first quarter of classes in the fall sports semester. So I'm very, very proud of our students, and I did want to acknowledge them publicly. Another thing I want to bring to your attention is if you look on our board agenda, item number F2 is a donation from a company called Earn Your Leisure. If you've been following our board meetings, we did have some representatives from Earn Your Leisure attend our board meeting early on in this school year to talk about vending machines. And we actually have some vending machines from Earn Your Leisure here at the middle high school. And from my understanding, and I know I'm not going to do a very detailed explanation, but this is a group of individuals that have actually graduated from Woodlands Middle High School. We have some very recent grads that are involved in business. They may or may not have gone on to college, but they definitely are going into business and wanting to have a business career and be entrepreneurs. And they have, I guess, been so successful that they want to give a donation back to the school in which they went to when they graduated. I have said time and again, this is a community district in which our community loves our school, they support our school, and we have recent grads that are giving back. And if you look at this donation, they're giving sneakers to the men's and women's basketball team. And so I just want to publicly thank the Earn Your Leisure company and group for this donation, and I'm just very pleased to see that our graduates are giving back. That's amazing and awesome. Last thing, nope, that is it. I'm going to move on. So now it is 10:22 p.m. Next in our agenda are the approvals. So we've already approved the personnel tenure C, so we're going to move on from that. And can I get a motion for Section D approvals?
I move that we approve the instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next, we have E, personnel, non-instructional items.
I move that we approve the non-instructional personnel items presented to the board for approval this evening.
I second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Let's move on to Section F, board action.
I move that we approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Section G, finance.
I move that we approve the finance items presented to the board for approval this evening.
A second?
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. H, business.
I move that we approve the business items presented to the board for approval this evening, with the exception of item H2, which is tabled.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And section I, pupil personnel services.
I move that we approve the pupil personnel services items presented to the board for the approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none or seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Let's move on to our closing items, J. The time is now 10:25 p.m. Are there any new business items for any trustees? Trustee Washington, then Pineda.
I have a couple of things I just wanted to say in reference to, I'm not 100% comfortable with continuing to have presentations during the Omicron variant being in such an uprise. So having people come out, I'm really happy that the students came out, but I really, me personally, as a trustee, would have liked them to be home. And then even bringing the school out, bringing staff out. I think my opinion is that going forward, we should limit presentations until we can get a little bit more handle on the Omicron variant. Also, the young man from the MBK, he talked about how he missed chess. He talked about how he missed the robots. And my wondering is, why can't we supply chess, robotics? Why can't we supply like a basketball program for our students? This should be part of our funding as a district. Students should not be in need for certain extracurricular programs that as a district we can provide. And I know we had chess programs before, and I'm not saying we don't have it. I'm just saying if there is a need or a want, as a taxpayer, I would like our students' needs to be met. So we can
remember the first discussion on why that happened, but we, always traditionally went, round robin to the different buildings. We had a presentation. I think the public and the board wants to hear from the individual buildings, but as we were listening to the presentation, of course, we're going late into the night. It did cross my mind that perhaps we should schedule, and I don't know if anyone's going to like this, but maybe a third meeting of the year and have just a presentation at that meeting. So it's just a, 1 hour meeting where you have a 30-minute presentation and then any questions, and then it's kind of done and that's taped. But it was going through my mind, how do we do this, because we have board meetings that have such large and vast amounts of information, executive sessions we have to go through, we have new administration that we're working through COVID, there's so many things, and then we have, a presentation that's also very important, and we need to hear from the buildings on what education is being done, but I'm just trying to, in my mind, figure out how do we do both. Yeah.
So one way that we can use our technology department, where the principal and his committee can actually do a movie, right, a video, and then the video can be presented to the board trustees and the community on our website, so that we're not stopping knowing what's going on in our buildings, but at this time, just because of what we're going through, the pandemic, just to lessen people to come out of their houses, because when you listen to the news, it says if you can not do optional. Like for us, we are elected officials, we're here, but for staff members, to me, it's asking them to do optional. So that's why I brought that up, so we could use our technology department, there could be a video made, we could, if we have questions,
we can pose them to Dr. Iverson, who can get back to the principal, and we can get answers. But just thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, I like that idea.
How we can help people just to stay a little safer. We all have to come in, we have to work, we have to go to school, but to bring them out, that was my thinking around bringing up that new business.
So I like that video idea. Trustees, can everyone just, think and out of the box and maybe share suggestions? Trustee Pineda?
Well, I guess what comes to my mind is I like the interaction element of the presentations, but that doesn't mean we can't do it virtually, right? Maybe what we could do is set up the presentation portion to be done virtually, and then that accounts for everything, right? That accounts for the safety concern, but yet there's still the interactive element. If we want to do that in a separate meeting, because we still want to meet in person, we can figure that out. But the point is, we can still continue the interactive element of the presentations, but just do it virtually.
Right.
That's an idea.
No, that's a great idea. So, I mean, we don't have to share ideas right now. It might come to you tomorrow or another time, but maybe we need to address this again. Yes, Trustee Warner?
I like that idea, okay? That is a good idea. That's what I was worried about, losing the interactive element if you just made a tape. But if you have the interaction and it's virtual, I think that will work just fine. I would also say that we were trying to get a whole Meet the Principals thing together from the CEC perspective, right? And I don't know if you want to talk more on that, Jamal, but we've done that in various ways in the past in which you got to see each of the principals and get a high-level summary. We can do that in addition, but yes, minimally, this is a good suggestion.
Okay, great. All right. Trustee Valen?
I'll just do an add-on here. I was actually thinking along the same lines no. I request that the CEC committee brings this up at their next meeting and gets input from the public as to how they would like to participate or hear that information, because the give and take, I think we need that interaction. I am concerned with our resources right now on whether that's feasible.
Right, I think that's a valid point. But I do think we need to also, I do want to hear from the community and what they think about it, but I think we need to also be realistic. We are here till 10:30 at night.
I know, but the community is hungry for information. I mean,
Yes.
we haven't been in the buildings, they haven't been in the buildings. I think there needs to be something, now whether it's done in the CEC meeting or virtually, I think there needs to be something. So I'd like to hear what the public has to say.
Yeah. So I do want board members, though, to think about the time, the exhaustion, the important and heavy decisions we're making late at night. And again, we don't want to have long meetings, but then we don't want to have extra meetings, but something has to give somewhere, because we're going to burn out or make some sort of, decision without thinking of all the sides of it. So we really need to be realistic with one another about that. Okay. Is there any other new business that other trustees have? Yes, Trustee Pineda?
Okay, so I previously asked about children's size surgical masks being available at the elementary schools. That's kind of morphed now because, as we all know, the recommendation is if you can get a KN95, get a KN95. That's what's being told by the CDC, right? So the question is, I know this was brought up in the past. Do we have the ability to provide child-sized KN95 masks at the elementary schools? That's my one question.
Yes, we do.
Okay. And do we actually have those available at the elementary schools now?
That I'm not 100% positive. I do know that they are at ECP, but I will check to see if they are at the elementary schools.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because, I know with those KN95s, particularly fit is important, and it'd kind of be silly to not have the child-sized mask at the elementary schools because it won't fit properly. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Pineda. Thank you, Ms. Raymond, for looking into that and getting back to us. Do we have KN95s for adult staff? Okay, yes.
Every principal's office has a supply.
Great, thank you so much. Any other new business from trustees?
I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, and Lisa Raymond, because we had this discussion at our last board meeting, and you acted on it, and you made sure that the staff has K95, and, we have the test kits coming from the county,
So I really see positive things happening going forward. I know this is taking you away from your job as a superintendent and assistant superintendent of business, and I'm hoping you can get back to why you became an educator, because now you're a healthcare provider. So I'm hoping you could become an educator, hopefully by March.
Okay, any other new business from trustees? I have a couple of items, so I don't want to let everyone go. Okay, trustees, I sent you guys an email regarding meeting with Ed McCormick, who is our, I'm going to mess up his title, but he is working with Dr. Iverson to help solidify the goals for the district. And he is working with our district clerk, Joya Ponticello, and I sent you guys an email forwarded that he's going to be meeting with us on February 15th and March 1st. I just want to make sure that everyone is okay with that before proceeding forward and giving the thumbs up. So please communicate with me at least sometime tomorrow, text, email, let me know if this is not okay with you. Check your calendars, please, because if not, I will move forward with letting Ms. Ponticello know that these dates are okay for the board. Okay? Next thing is our committees. Our attorney is going to be getting back with us, but some of our committee chairs have expressed concern that the board members cannot meet together to plan the committee agenda or which topics we're going to discuss. We're actually somewhat restricted from that in the past. So we're going to be, we asked our attorney to provide us with information. We're going to be looking into that so that there is not that restriction to get information between board members about the committee and planning for the committee. We also discussed public comments. So if you listen to the long narrative I read about our public comments, one of the sentences says that in most cases there will be no response from the board during a board meeting so as to keep the meeting moving. We do have several trustees who have been very active members of the community before running for the Board of Ed, and several of us, have interacted with the public during public comment, but I want to reiterate to the public that our policy is not to actually interact and give answers immediately. So if you do get something, you're very lucky, because we're not supposed to do that, and we all are working on policing ourselves not to respond too much right at that time. And there's several reasons for that, but you can always email any of us as a group, individually, to get any answers or information. And if it's something that publicly we should be sharing, we will try as well to share it publicly. But the board meeting, public comments is not the place to go back and forth with getting information. And all of us are really struggling with that on the board, but we are trying to adhere to it. We did talk with our administrators about hiring and the hiring process, and they have worked on some things. I don't know if those things are ready for public sharing as yet, so I don't want to put you on the spot.
Not yet.
Okay.
But they will be. We're working on it, and they'll come home with the weekly update. What will come home this week, this Friday, will be the tenure form that the board asked us to put together, that you will start seeing for all future tenure recommendations, that will compile all the information on one sheet with those attachments. So we have Dr. Macaluso and his team, and we work together to come up with that. We've shared it with the principals and the administrators first, and they're aware of it. So you'll see a sample of that with the packet this week. I took it off last week because I wanted to wait till the meeting, let them know it was coming. And so that's ready to go. I think you're going to like it, and it's going to give you a good picture of the candidates coming before you when we come in to present our case, as we just talked about that in exec session. Very comprehensive.
Okay.
So you're going to love that. You will also, can I make one? You're going to also get a copy of the remote learning plan in the packet, the full plan. It is going to be on the website, but you're going to get the hand copy with all the pieces that includes expectations of everyone in the district and what we have come up with to ensure that rigor. So that will be with the packet coming home as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Iverson. And what Dr. Iverson is referencing with regard to tenure is that the board receives a lot of personnel information when it's time to consider whether it be a teaching staff or administrator for tenure, and the board asks quite a bit of questions, and we turned out to kind of have some similar questions asked every single time. And so our administration has put together kind of a template of information that to make sure to provide to us so that we don't ask those same questions over and over. So that could help, speed things along, but also make sure that we get comprehensive information. Okay, Trustee Warner, did you want to say something? No? Yes, no? Okay.
Okay, I'll say that we'll get more creative in our questioning strategies, but we'll have more information and more completeness. This is probably a good thing.
Yeah, and more consistency in what information we bring before you, so that, because we've listened, we've anticipated, we hear the concerns you have, and I think this form captures that as a beginning. But please let us know as we start using it. It may evolve into more, needing more. We definitely did include more information around the actual domains that they are evaluated on. So when we come before you, you not only have the checkoff pieces, you have very concrete evidence connected to how they are evaluated to make your decision. And so we put together a very comprehensive one-pager that I think you're going to like. And it's a draft. Let us know. But we did work on that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. I just got two more things. One is our visitor policy. Earlier in the evening, I asked about the restriction for 2 people to come to, at least with our sports activities, it's 2 spectators per student. With our performances, it's 2 people per student or performer. And I just wanted to remind the community that some schools do no spectators at sports. Some schools do vaccination only, and that we have, I guess, found a middle ground with 2 people. And I just want to reiterate that, but also ask the community to continue to be patient and to also to follow the rule. We have had some situations arise where there's been some conflicts, and we don't want that to continue. We really want there to be, this is in order for our students to be supported by their families, or whoever they invite. So please, we need to keep the conflicts down to a minimum, and everyone needs to remember and understand the rule. It's 2 people per student or per player, okay? So I just wanted to reiterate that. And lastly, and the Governance and Policy Committee, we did talk a little bit about a possible retreat coming up, a possible mid-year retreat, and I wasn't sure how the rest of the board feels about that. Our prior retreats have been more on communication and board functionality, and we utilized a BOCES moderator and trainer to do that. I was hoping that if we did do a mid-year retreat, we could maybe get a NYSBA person to do it. I would love to hear from the board members that are not on the Governance and Policy Committee. I'm going to start with Trustee Thomas.
With mid-year being well, I guess mid-school year, yeah.
Like February-ish?
Yeah, I mean, if everybody thinks there's something specific for us to go into that's going to help our ability to service the school community, then I'm for it.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Warner?
Yes, and I'm looking forward, well, we'll see if we can fit it in. I think we're going to try and get the budget cycle going. Sometimes at retreats, we'd get our first introduction to what the budget looked like, and often we would do like a mid-year checkup on how we're doing on our goals for the year. So I'm certainly in favor of having a retreat if that helps us.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to write that down. In Washington?
So I'm going to have something to say. In reference, you just asked us for 2 dates when it comes to meeting with our consultant, when it comes to our goals. And February is a short month, so maybe we should look into March more than February. That's just a suggestion. But of course, I would not mind having a mid-year retreat. We just need to be mindful of our meetings and not overschedule ourselves, like you said, where we'll get burnt out and things happen, and the retreat isn't a retreat.
Okay, great.
I think the dates that he asked for are actually dates of board meetings.
Yes.
Yes, they're
Thank
already
you, Trustee Warner. I appreciate it. Still too much.
Yeah, those are existing dates, but I think he wants to take up some time in our meetings.
During the
So he
meeting.
wanted our permission to do that.
Right.
But again, I want everyone to look at your calendars, think about those meetings, and if it does not work, if those dates don't work for us with Mr. McCormick, please, let me know by tomorrow,
Well, if they're
please.
board meetings, I mean, they're most likely going to work, but in reference to a retreat, knowing February is a very short month, you have committee meetings, you have a lot of things going on. It's just, to me, if we could look into March, unless there's a reason for February.
Yeah, I think February is just a mid-year, so the Governance and Policy Committee can maybe, let's see, do we have another meeting, Trustee Valen, before then?
I'm checking now, I think it's February 11th, which is why, nope. Sorry. February 10th, Thursday, which is after our work session on the 1st.
And so February is a short month because it's 28 days, but we also have that winter recess in the middle of February, plus we may have some weather. So let's just keep that in mind. Perhaps we can, on governance and policy, look at some dates. We'll look at, I'll work with our district clerk to look at some options for moderators at NISBA, get some pricing, et cetera. Our next Board of Education meeting is February 1st, so I will have some information for you guys then, and we'll be, prepared to discuss possible agenda items. Trustee Warner gave us a couple already. Okay? That is everything that I had for new business. Is there any other new business, any other discussion topics? Hearing none. It's 10:46 p.m.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
Wonderful. It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries. 10:46 p.m. Good night.